I want to talk about building the Experient workforce. Experient as in the term of having lived experience of forced treatment and commitment. It's not a consumer market force to be forcefully used as a human laboratory animal. Because who actually wishes to consume the abuse psychiatry dishes out? It's electrocutions, it's needle stabbing, poisons that leave you incapacitated, suffering, disabled, no longer able to contribute to the community and feel yourself and be all you're meant to be. The term consumer is not empowering. It's devils pulling out your tongue and putting revolting things on it and forcing you to take that. Lived experience, that's what we have, yes. It's experiential rather than, say we're not the therapists. We're doing the experiential component of the support. Okay. We're talking about expertise. We are experts in our own experience. We are experts in being subjected to psychiatric force. We are experient. And it's a short word, and it's in the dictionary. What should be. It's about asking the question, have you been there? And you have the knowledge, that insider knowledge, understanding, that will give validation to other people who've been through similar things. It's more than theory or observation, it's about sense memories of the event. Everyone is experient of something, but what if you are experient of something? What if what you are experient of is something that is being oppressed and marginalized in this era, or in this particular country, or within the industry you work? Just think of Banjo Clark. What he said. Why people get intuitive feelings like that too, but it doesn't mean a thing to them if they don't listen to it. They say, I had this funny feeling, but they shut it off. Everyone is experient of something. Have you ever consumed a crisis assistant team? Treatment team, crisis assistant treatment team. Even if the cat here pictured holding the bird that says, I can tell them I'm trained to look after it. Meow. Even if the cat is going to be friendly to the bird and not harm it, the cat won't understand the bird's need to fly and how frightened the bird is of being in the cat's care. Despite all the cat degrees and diplomas the cat has, it doesn't have lived experience of being a bird. The cat is not experient of being a bird. The cat's experience is of being a cat. Cats are regularly consumers of birds, yet the cat wishes to call the bird a consumer of its welfare services. The cat sees the bird's non-compliance as lacking insight. Cats arrogantly think because they think they are better, bigger, stronger, they can take care of birds much better than birds can. I sometimes like analogies just to get away from all the, enslaved human laboratory animal stuff that I've been subjected to. All right, so let's look at supplier of versus consumer of. Who judges which is which? A playwright who hears voices of characters is not a consumer, rather a supplier of a manuscript. A visual artist who sees visions before they put it on canvas is a supplier of artworks. An inventor, once the invention is marketed and in demand, is a supplier of an IP. These three people could end up condemned as mentally ill if their career isn't quickly supported. Then whether you're valid or invalid is up to discrimination. Okay, we are experient of what? Well, you've got to get it to know us to know what of. Let's just think of these imposed blanket terms that don't cover us. When betters who get to choose want people to get better, wish people to use the term consumer for people who are told, for the most part when consulted, they have to choose what would be best out of all the rubbish served up. Meanwhile, these consumers pay for the medications they do not want, which are torturous, turn up to appointments to be interrogated as to whether they are compliant with the poisonous medications they do not want, and are then electrocuted if they refuse medications, are locked away indefinitely if they refuse to admit to have a mental illness and take the medication as prescribed. Consumers, I mean, get over it. Do not call people who are enslaved human laboratory animals consumers. We are experient of, well, get to know us and know what of. Okay, so let's think about alliances and also think about this person with a needle being jabbed in their bum and having to pretend it's all fine so they don't get the dose increased, because that's what happens. Meanwhile, the other part of their mind is thinking the truth, and they're having to put on this act so they're not abused more. This sort of thing's typical in slavery, but this is the kind of worst slavery. It's prisons you in your own body and uses you in the most disgusting manner. Okay, so we can build alliances by and strengthen things by using inclusive language that does not humiliate, hurt, oppress, and disguise abuse. So we don't, in order to make sure we're being kind to people, we don't call people who are enslaved human laboratory animals consumers. Using a word like experient, we are experient of being used in that horrible way. We are not a mental health service user, a mental health consumer, or a mental health survivor. But we might be a psychiatric regime survivor or a survivor of the mental health system. See, we're talking about regimes and systems here. And we definitely are experient of. All these things. Many human experiences we are experient of. And those we are experient of can be anthropomorphized or analogized or symbolized and understood by those with similar experiences to us. Experience this. Ooh, shut your trap, headaches. And a purple mouse. And thinking about all those things people ask you to do. What's wrong with you? Don't you have an opinion? What are you talking about? You don't make sense. This is all about you. So why should anyone care? Okay. Been a little plan. Push yourself up through the concrete. You're like, yeah, I got through. And then the council poisons you. Oh, you made a beautiful dish and hoping to give it to people, and then falls all over the floor. Experiment of that. And the mess that can be caused if we don't take time with things and have to juggle too many things at once. I'm just going to leave that one to think about. Clouds, unique and individual. You got an opening in the sky amongst the dark clouds. Experience that. Not everybody's experienced of this particular Titan R plant. It's a huge plant, and it's supposed to smell of a corpse. But when I smelt it, it smelled of, to me, of rotting vegetation. So I am experienced of that, but someone else would have a different opinion on it. And that's what's interesting about a person who is experienced, has that sense memory of something, and it is about opinion, but quite often opinions correlate well when a large group of people have been subjected to something like psychiatric force. They will talk about how they felt. Many people would say, "Oh, I felt like I had been cut down, and I was held down and injected with this tardive dyskinesia stuff by a lot of people that I could only describe as little cogs in a big wheel making a lot of money by putting bombs in my body." I did not deserve to be tortured by the psychiatric regime. It was not for my own good. There needs to be absolute prohibition of forced treatment and commitment. The government's actually spending 13 billion. This is only a calculation of how much they're spending on, I think it was electroshock. Since the term consumer has been insisted on for experience of psychiatric abuse, let's see how consumer law can apply. No, consumer law doesn't apply to consumers of the mental health system, as if we are consumers. As if we want to consume the abuses psychiatry dishes out. Consumer law is only for commerce and industry, it's not for human rights. Consumers are only ever voluntary. So you can't call the enslaved consumers. It's just ridiculous. You can't call people subjected to involuntary treatment orders consumers. Doesn't make sense. What might people in crisis want, though, as a service? An overlapping crisis sets. It's a time when things are difficult to communicate because it's so overwhelming. I believe we'd like to be listened to. Affordable housing, hope, decency, respect, legal assistance, safe places to work, to untangle the myriad of horrors and absences, allies, love and friendliness, to contribute and earn a living, not be bullied, not be disabled by abuse, not be harmed and damned, not be used and ignored, to have a medical emergency recognised rather than dismissed as a delusion, to not be considered a consumer burdening a taxpayer, and to be paid for market research of products that are freely chosen to try. People want support, not abuse. To fulfill the role of supporting people who are being abused by psychiatry, we must acknowledge that our democratic country has harboured a regime for over 200 years that is still torturing people. Mainstream society believes that psychiatry is help and care, and people abused by psychiatry are some kind of chaotic criminal. Experient workers know differently, and they must be allowed to validate those currently being abused by the mental health system and stop it happening. So little people pouring a bucket of water on the DSM and DSM crying, help, I'm melting. The water is vital to life, but the DSM is allergic to what is vital. I was allergic to psych drugs. It's so horrible. So horrible. Most people are. I don't know one person that says they don't have any bad effects, and anyway. A quarter of the population subjected to psychiatric abuse. Whoa, 1.5 billion of us. Who is this group of accused people? Okay, there is a group of people, as we've heard, that because of the nature of their illness are so unwell that they have no idea what their illness is about and no idea what treatments work and no idea what the side effects are to be, and so on. And this is from SBS Insight in 2013. They did a promo on forced electroshock. Got a whole lot of plains folk up to say, yeah, electroshock worked for me. John Reed tried to, have a say, and a young woman tried to talk, but she's so afraid of speaking up. Anyway, this was said about a group of people. So I'm saying the group referred to are called psychiatrists. They're so unwell because of the nature of their illness. They're so unwell, they have no idea what their illness is about and no idea what treatments work and no idea what the side effects are to be, and so on. Okay, so this group is referred to, called psychiatrists, not according to the psychiatrist that said this, but rather according to those experienced of psychiatric abuse. Informed consent. What's this? Does the psychiatrist know what is happening? So we're just doing a little role reversal on these things. No, not really. The psychiatrist doesn't know what's happening. Can the psychiatrist weigh up the information? No, the psychiatrist leaves the drug weighing to the chemist. Does the psychiatrist appreciate they've got an illness? No, the psychiatrist believes they are the physician to the soul. Does the psychiatrist recognize the array of treatments available in relation to the treatment of that illness? No, the psychiatrist narrowly focuses on assisted and forced harm that disables rather than enables. Therefore, the psychiatrist cannot give informed consent according to their own belief of how to obtain informed consent. Experience of psychiatric abuse have a whole lot of labels placed on them that don't make sense. Giving ourselves a respectful title, Experient. This means that lived experience workers do not consume their own services. Of course they don't. And that's why we should be called experient workers rather than consumer workers. I mean, if you want to call yourself a consumer consultant, most of the consumer consultants work in advertising and stuff, but that's an entirely different thing. If the thing you're consulting about is with a group of people that are all freely choosing that service, then you're a consumer consultant, no problem. But I'm actually talking about a group of people that are being ignored here, that have been forcefully treated. And I'm a lived experience worker, often called peer support worker. I like the term experient worker. Consumer worker is an oxymoron anyway. It's a contradiction in terms. You can't have it. You can't. You don't consume the own services. Stop. Experient is a shorter term than lived experience, and people prefer shorter terminology. So that's why I'm thinking, dust this old word off and use it. It's brilliant. Experient implies that we have experience in the area we're working that goes beyond university qualifications. So it should be something you could put on your resume. I am experienced of climbing mountains. Usually it's put in hobbies, but how do you describe having lived in the country for a number of years? Experience of living in Australia. To others experienced in the same area, it's pretty obvious when someone is an ally rather than an experient. Now, we love allies, but there's a huge difference in understanding. It is amassing an amount of experience, and also, as I've said before, it's sense memory, so it's including all the various senses, and I would include vibe among the senses, as well as the ones that people regularly call our senses. You just can't usurp this kind of experience. And I want us to be strong, because we need to be, because it's about human rights here most of the time when you're talking about experient workers. You don't have support groups happening for people who are marginalised and oppressed. Not really. That's why we're needed. Experiential knowledge, that is, it's going to give other people validation for their experiences, community symbolism, politics, dismiss them. So, experient, as defined in dictionaries, is a noun. Experient, and the plural is experience. A person who experiences something. Also heard people pronounce this word differently. I think it was Experient. So maybe you might want to use that way of pronouncing. It's an either thing for me. So let's try the other pronunciation. Experient as an adjective, comparative, more experient, superlative, most experient. I like experient. Met in the course of experience. I think that's a good one, and it's a word that can give all that recognition and validity to people who have been there. There's a number of links and things that I've come up with, but the amount of links and stuff I could put in a bibliography for this stuff is just massive. Anyway. Alright, so let's use the term experient and tell our governments, no, we're not consumers. Alright.